again. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Shenandoah City Council meeting for September 28, 2022. We'll look around and see that everyone is present, so we do have a quorum. We're going to stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance, and if you would like to remain standing, we will have an invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Under the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Tonight's invocation is going to be delivered by our fellow resident of Shenandoah, Mr. David Eubanks. Yes, please, come up to the podium.
Let us pray. Father God, thank you so much for this opportunity to come together as a community. Thank you for this city of Shenandoah that we are so fortunate to live and to work in. We thank you for our police department. We pray you protect the officers as they work so hard to protect us and our families. And Lord, thank you for these community leaders gathered here tonight. We pray that you would grant them with wisdom, discernment, and foresight as they make decisions that impact our city. Pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mr. Eubanks. All right, we're going to move on to item number 5, Citizens Forum. Citizens are invited to speak for 3 minutes on matters relating to city government that relate to the agenda or non-agenda items. Speakers are asked to stand up and approach the podium to address the council and give their name before sharing their comments. We have one resident, the only resident we have is Charlie Balmer. Mr. Balmer.
Good evening, Council. First, I'd like to start by saying this is an awesome visual to have our SHP here for tonight. I know there's a lot of stuff going on with them, but as somebody who absolutely loves our police department, I see you all the time around our neighborhoods anyway, so this is just kind of an added bonus, but I think it's some really special stuff going on tonight with our police department. I'm here mostly to kind of add some extra flavor to our Civic Club upcoming items that are coming in mostly October. We do have our Shenandoah Stadium night. For those of you who don't know, we go over to the stadium across the way and welcome our College Park and Oak Ridge competitive football game that night. We have the garage sales going on October the 15th. There's been some posts on the Facebook to sign up with that with Wendy. Please make sure if you are listening to this and aren't following Facebook to get on there and make sure that you're registered with that. Trash Bash for the October 22nd date. I am confirmed at least with one truck and possibly a trailer, if not 2 trucks, for the Shenandoah Neighbors Helping Neighbors to go through the community, and for the residents that need some extra help either with bigger items or just aren't physically capable of bringing the items up to Trash Bash, for them to be able to basically message me on Facebook. I'll make sure that one of us comes over that morning, picks up those items and brings them up here. And then the final thing is, I know we don't have an official agenda item for City Council for Civic Club, but I would maybe ask that that's something that we consider, not necessarily for all, I mean, twice a month might be a little much, but maybe the last meeting of every month, just to kind of share these items and be a little more official with those things. Thank you all.
Good. Thanks, Charlie. Thank you, Charlie. All right. We're going to move on to item number 6, the introduction of new employees. Jackie.
Mayor and Council, I'll start with this one. I'd like to introduce Jennifer Hess to you and the community. Jennifer has filled our vacant community development position at the end of July after her and her husband Doug relocated to Texas to be near family. Jennifer started her municipal career in 2012 with the Village of Grays Lakes, Illinois, as a deputy village clerk, where she supported the village manager, zoning officer, and administrative staff. She joins our team with experience in development permitting, public inquiries and notices, accounts payable, and document management. She's quickly and with ease stepped into her role here with the city, and we are extremely lucky and excited to have her on our team.
Right. Thank you. Welcome aboard.
So I'm introducing Fernando Castaneda. Fernando has been a police officer for approximately 12 years. Throughout his tenure, he has excelled in multiple roles, including patrol officer, traffic officer, and detective. Officer Castaneda is a father to 4 children. His older son is currently deployed with the U.S. Navy off the coast of Japan. He has a 5-year-old twin girls and a 14-month-old baby. Today is his 15th wedding anniversary. So we're going to do the official swearing in of Castaneda, and his mom is actually going to pin him. So we're going to read the oath, and he's going to repeat after me, and then after that, his mom's going to pin his badge on. So please raise your right hand. I state your name.
I, Fernando Castaneda,
Do solemnly affirm
solemnly affirm
that I will faithfully execute the duties
that I will faithfully execute the duties
of the office of police officer
of the office of police officer
of the state of Texas.
of the state of Texas.
I will never bring dishonor upon my integrity,
I will never bring dishonor upon my integrity,
the badge of my office,
the badge of my office,
the Shenandoah Police Department.
or the Shenandoah Police Department.
My character will remain impeccable.
My character will remain impeccable.
I will never betray the public trust.
I would never betray the public trust.
I will always have the courage to hold myself and others
I would always hold my courage in myself and others
accountable for our actions.
accountable for our actions.
I promise to uphold the Constitution,
I promise to uphold the Constitution,
the laws of the United States of America,
the laws of the United States of America,
and the state of Texas, so help me God.
and the state of Texas, so help me God.
You want another one?
Yeah.
All right. All right.
That's exciting.
Okay. We got a few more. So thankfully, I pinned the right badge on him, and I didn't give him the So, where's Joel at? So, Joel and I have worked together for, gosh, 20, 25 years, so we're both old. We've worked together for a long time. When he worked for Montgomery County, he and I ran calls together. We became friends. And then he came over to the Shenandoah Police Department and left the dark side of Montgomery County. With us, he's worked his way up from patrol officer to a sergeant on patrol. He was at one point in time my supervisor, so y'all can ask him all kinds of questions about me later on. So, and then he worked his way up into the sergeant detective role, and he's done a phenomenal job at that role. And he's worked very hard. He's worked hard to uphold the integrity of the police department, and share that vision that I have of the agency. So it's an honor to move him to the lieutenant's position. So try. So it goes in like this.
Did you wear your body armor?
Okay. I know some of y'all have been waiting for this moment too, so.
Yes, we have.
Maui is 17 months old. He's a Belgian Malinois. He's from Holland. He speaks Dutch. Maui and Officer Duenas have gone through 500 hours of training together. And Maui has been a part of 2 narcotics arrests so far since he's been deployed. And he hasn't been deployed very long. So he's a little nervous with everybody being in here. But this is Officer Maui.
All right.
He has to be sworn in real quick. So. If he repeats after me, then he's going to get promoted real quick. So, yeah, there you go. I, Maui, do solemnly affirm that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office of police officer of the state of Texas. I will never bring dishonor upon my integrity, the badge of my office, or the Shenandoah Police Department. My character will remain impeccable, and I will never betray the public trust. I will always have the courage to uphold myself and others accountable for our actions, and promise to uphold the Constitution, the laws of the United States of America, and to the state of Texas, so help me God.
You pin him?
And then we have one more to introduce, and then I'm done, I promise. Sorry, we didn't want a confrontation in the hallway with the dogs.
While we wait, I want to thank the police families that are here to support your family members, and I want to personally thank you for the support that you have for your loved ones, and rest assured that the city of Shenandoah loves our police department, and we support them 100%. And thank you for being here. Thank you for allowing them to serve us and protect us.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Mayor.
you.
We appreciate it. So this guy here, this is Major. Major is a little less high-strung. He is also 17 months old. He is also a Belgian Malinois, and he also speaks Dutch. He's pretty new. He's only been with us for a week now. He's been gifted to us for public relations. So this is Mr. Maui. I mean, Mr. Major, sorry. So this is Mr. Major. And he outranks everybody else. So.
That's right.
Thank you.
Can we have a little fun? Ron, can you run to the door?
Again, congratulations, Joel, on your promotion, and welcome our new police officer to our department. Thank you for serving. All right, we're going to move on to the next item. We're going to have a little change to our agenda. We're going to bring item number 23 up and deal with that next. This item is on the agenda tonight because we were hoping to bring you a contract which would bring water and sewer to our neighbors and friends in Tamina. Unfortunately, the contract details are not yet finalized. We still have some tweaks to do on that, so we're not able to present that to the council tonight, so we're gonna go ahead and deal with that at a later date. Okay? All right, let's move on to the former mayor's favorite part of the agenda.
What are you trying to say?
The presentation of the monthly MDD report.
All right. Well, we're closing out the MDD report for the year ending 2022. And as you can see, we've got a few projects that have closed out. The city entrance signs, the ACP lines at Texaco, and the ACP lines at Research. These projects will be finished or removed from the books. Last time at MDD, we approved $30,000 for I-45 design work for entry signs. We also added $170,000 to the CIP for future construction. And the MDD also approved reimbursement to change orders for ACP pipe. And I think those were the highlights from last month, and we did not meet today.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Councilman Raymaker. All right, next item, number 9, update regarding the David Memorial Streetlight Project.
Mayor and Council, staff wanted to bring this before you just to give you an update because we are getting close to starting this project. However, there was unfortunately a reduction in scope. So staff has been working with Entergy, it feels like a couple of years now. It might actually be a couple of years. It took them a while to get us an original, the original cost. It took about a year for them to get us the original cost for the 14 lights which were proposed. That cost came in much higher than what was budgeted at $166,000. We had $110,000 budgeted. Staff went back and forth with Energy, tried to get that price to come down, and they wouldn't. So what the update is staff is going to be reducing the scope of that. And basically focusing on getting street lights in the darkest portion of David Memorial, which is between the roundabout at Shenandoah Park and the stadium. It's very dark through that area. There's actually a turn on the road there, so we did want to get the lights in that area. So while we won't have direct lighting on the street south of that to the Tamina intersection, there is a lot of carryover light from the different parking lots there that do help illuminate it. So we wanted to bring that as an update to council, so when the project was done, you knew it was just going to be the 4 lights in the darkest area, not all 14.
Well, any additional lights are appreciated.
Yeah, and still waiting on the final price for that, but it's going to be around $44,000 for those lights.
Okay. Thank you, Joe. We're going to move on to item number 10, discussion and possible action to adopt the following resolution. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Shenandoah, Texas, appointing members to the Board of Directors of the Shenandoah Municipal Development District.
Council, this is for the reappointment of Byron Beavers and Joanna Gonzalez. They have both indicated that they wish to continue serving, so we're thankful to them for their continued service. There's a resolution for signature by the mayor if you vote for this.
Awesome. Motion to adopt the resolution.
Second.
And a motion to adopt the resolution made by Councilman Raymaker, seconded by Councilman Fletcher. Any discussion?
No, great to have them back.
I think they're both doing an excellent job myself.
They are, for sure.
And we're lucky to have them. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Item number 11, discussion and possible action regarding the designation of a representative and an alternate to the Houston Galveston Area Council 2023 General Assembly.
Council, this is something that we do on an annual basis, and we are now, it's that time again this year. Councilman Broad and Councilman Raymaker have been the primary and alternate for some time and doing a great job. They've been very involved. So I haven't asked them if they wish to continue serving, but that's what we're here for tonight.
Yes.
Make a motion to reappoint Charlie Bratton. Can I make a motion to appoint myself to?
Go for it.
I second.
We have a motion to appoint Councilman Broad and Councilman Raymaker, made by Councilman Raymaker, and seconded by Councilman Pollard.
Yes.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Item number 12, discussion regarding the equipment replacement fund and budget amendments. Discussion only.
Mayor and Council, at the August 24th meeting, Councilmember McLeod, am I echoing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Am I still echoing?
You're good.
Yeah. Sorry, guys, I'm not tech savvy, tech savvy.
You want to try the podium?
I can, that'll work. So Mayor and Council, at the August 24th meeting, Councilmember McLeod had requested that we bring back the discussion about equipment replacement as well as the budget amendment process going forward in continuation of the budget approval that was at that meeting. So I'm going to start off with the first category. It's going to be equipment replacement. So just a little backstory. Equipment replacement was created in 2012 to help for the long-term planning of certain equipment that was a higher dollar price tag and that do not qualify for that capital project tier. So this helps essentially the city to finance for these larger purchases over a time of predetermined allocation from the current operating budget that year. Currently, we have 4 departments that have equipment placement contributions. The first is the police department. That includes some non-patrol vehicles, vests, radios, and tasers. The second is the public works department. That includes vehicles, street sweeper, utility vehicles, bucket truck. Community development is the third department with just the 3 vehicles. And then the water sewer fund has several vehicles, a jet machine, a backhoe, tractor and utility vehicle, and an excavator. We did have technology having a portion into equipment placement until this current budget year because we took it out to readjust how we're going to fund technology equipment placement. Previously, it was just a straight line item, generic. From talks with our auditors and also with council members, we determined that would be better if we actually had a set plan instead of just a blank amount of money going in there each year. So this is kind of a discussion to see, kind of get a little bit of guidance on what technology will be going. Unfortunately, Chris is not here tonight, but the idea would be for his equipment placement, it would include more like servers or network switches or and I'm probably totally butchering some of these technology terms, but some stuff that's not going to be a long, drawn out or large project. So as long as you guys are good with that, that's what we're going to work on and get that developed and bring it back and possibly add it to the budget this year or wait till next year. We'll see what we can come up with.
I guess my thing with equipment replacement is 2 things. One, I think we need to define what items we're replacing. I think in general, I think you hit it right. It's for these large expense items that have a regular scheduled need for replacing is the way I would say it. So I know we've talked to Public Works as a certain of their equipment that's really expensive. We need to sort of it's reverse amortization kind of idea that you want to have cash in the bank to pay for it up front. They're smaller items, so one question is, do we set a threshold? If it costs less than $10,000, do we not worry about it? If there's a, at what point do we schedule this? The police, we've got some very solid, we said tasers, vests, those have expiration dates. They're required to be replaced every so many years. Real easy. We've got other equipment which has been, they said, well, we think it'll last 7 years. So, okay, well, last 7 years and now we're on year 10 and it's still going. So is that something we keep contributing to equipment replacement? Is that something that we say, okay, we did our 7 years, we think this is what it'll cost, let's just stop contributing. And I put that out there because I kind of want to talk about this. It's related to the other thing, budget amendments, but they're sort of different ideas. I think it needs to be very, I guess my point for equipment replacement, because I checked, and we have about $800,000 right now sitting for equipment replacement. But because we've said it's equipment replacement, that's money we can't do anything else with. So is that the best budgeting, is this the best tool for budgeting for equipment that we know we're going to replace? Number one. Number two, what equipment, what defines something as being eligible for us to put it into equipment replacement? I mean, even switches aren't particularly that expensive. So, you know, I mean, for a building this size, it's not, you know.
Yeah, and I looked at best practices. There's nothing definitely for equipment replacement. It's more capital asset management. So it's kind of, it's more geared to cities with more stuff, bigger stuff. Right. We're a smaller city, we don't have as much equipment. I talked to Conroe briefly at the beginning of budget to see how they do it. Their process probably wouldn't work best for us. So it's kind of hard to find another city that's like us to kind of grasp on. But typically,
I mean, I want to do what's best for us in our situation.
Yeah, and like when we look at the items that are on this equipment replacement, a lot of them are vehicles and larger equipment. I think the issue is that I think probably on our side, we need to look at it each year. I've talked to Joseph, because he has some items, because he takes really good care of all of his equipment, it lasts longer. And also, the prices that were put in there probably are not realistic in today's economy.
Well, that's the other thing. So are we looking to entirely pay for the cost? Are we looking to simply minimize the hit on the budget?
And we can do either or.
That's a philosophy question, right?
And we could do either or. So I guess the question is that when we get into budget workshop, Joseph looks at his equipment or his vehicles. I'm not picking on you, but he looks at his equipment and goes, this probably needs to be replaced. This can last longer. So then we look at, okay, how much money's in there? What do we need to contribute more this year? Should we stop the funding? Or say, hey, you're already at that 10-year mark. Let's stop the funding, and then whatever else we'll just supplement from cash.
You need to refresh the pricing as well. So that should be
an
annual thing where you refresh the pricing.
Yeah,
well, that's what I was saying, Ron.
So,
to me, that's a philosophical question. Do you leave it so that I'm basically only taking the hit of inflation when I go to buy it? Or, as you said, do we annually say, okay, I've got this, I need to replace the truck. I mean, it's a half-ton pickup truck, for instance. And this year, when I bought it, it cost this much, but next year the cost goes up a little. So I have to keep contributing so that when I do go buy it, all I do is I literally write a check out of equipment replacement. Or am I looking to say I'm going to pay 90% of it because that's what I put into equipment replacement, and 10% is going to have to come out of our
operating or available cash or whatever we want to
export
at that time.
I think that's just a philosophy. Do you set a price and worry about what 7 years of inflation does?
Or we just do a revamp every year.
Or do we annually update it?
And these days you have to worry about the availability.
Exactly.
So will what I want in a couple of years be available? Will there be chips for whatever I want to buy or whatever? So.
Well, it's really, and I think the equipment too, it's really about what job do I need to accomplish? Because it may be, I need to do some job X. Well, 7 years from now, the thing that we're currently using literally doesn't exist because there's a whole new technology platform that will accomplish this job for me. So I can reach back into equipment replacement and buy that new technology.
Yes,
so,
the equipment replacement fund is a committed fund balance. Right. So it's not restricted by any other entity. So it's not like ARPA funds or so that we're bound to commitments. This committed fund is made for this and it's set aside, but the council can vote ultimately to reassign those funds. I would just be careful with not crossing over, oh, Jackie, don't get your Tahoe. We're going to allocate that money. I would say keep it within that department at least, if you're going to reallocate the funds
With that
to a different
department, putting
item.
money in, absolutely, I agree with that.
Especially because water sewer is a different fund altogether.
Well, yeah, we can't,
contributor.
I
Yeah.
had to ask to say.
So, that was the only thing, that would be the only restriction I would say on that, if you wanted, because we did have an issue, I mean, not an issue, we had a situation like that with the skid loader. We realized there was some money in the equipment replacement fund that Public Works had put in that was not going to be spent for that, and reassigned it for the skid loader. And that's how we purchased that.
So a quick question to you, how long do we depreciate assets, okay?
So, on my depreciation schedule, so not to get super boring into accounting rules, business type activities are the only depreciation we actually record on books. Government activities, you don't record because of the nature of the asset. So typically, but when I do my depreciation schedules, usually vehicles are on a 5-year life and bigger equipment's usually on a 7 to 10, depending on the dollar threshold. And the auditors help us determine what to kind of put the useful life as.
So, and I guess I think we should look into, and to Mike's point, is take the street sweeper. I mean, this is a truck that goes around, it's very expensive, and what if it craters one day? You know, a bearing goes bad or something, and pieces fly everywhere. So that's what I think the equipment replacement is
And skid
mainly
load,
for.
yeah.
But then again, if we're carrying $750,000 in there, I don't think we're utilizing it properly. And we need to look at that as well.
So what we can do right now is I can get with each of the departments that have contributions in here, and we can look at where we're at, where we're going, and then bring it back and either reduce what we're putting in there or have a plan on purchasing something based on.
Well, we don't even know what's adequate to keep in there.
Yeah, well.
I mean, this is,
Yeah,
Mike's
typically,
point.
your larger equipment, so vehicles definitely, well, other than the patrol vehicles because of their lifespan's
but we
shorter.
budget them every year.
Yeah, their lifespan's a lot shorter, so they would not be eligible for a replacement plan. But all the other vehicles, I think, are deemed worthy, and I think pretty much everything that's on here right now is, it's applicable. The only thing is, it's trying to figure out technologies for equipment replacement, because it's a little bit different. He doesn't have vehicles, he doesn't have big equipment, it's more technology, yeah.
Technology changes a lot faster than the actual wear item on the, I mean, firewalls, for example, they're constantly being upgraded to fight cyber security and all that, so that's important,
Yeah.
especially in the IT world.
Yeah, technical updates.
Oh,
software
absolutely.
updates and all
I
that.
mean,
Yeah, 2
Just a
years ago,
question
we
of
did use.
In that case, is equipment replacement really the place to put that as opposed to this is a known annual
For technology.
expenditure or it's a plan, right? If I know every 3 years, I mean, there's a certain lifespan, right? So is there a minimum lifespan? We talked about the police vehicles. We basically plan to replace them every 3 years. Well, that means we plan to buy 3 vehicles every year historically. In the last 2 years have been kind of weird, but that's what we've done. We bought 3 vehicles a year, and we kind of keep our fleet moving that way. How does, if 3 years is too short for sort of big ticket items like those, I mean, those are expensive, then technology or things that we're replacing or updating more frequently than that, is that really equipment replacement, or is that expenditures that we ought to be just budgeting for and spending?
Yeah.
I mean, the street sweepers, the vehicles we're keeping longer than 3 years, the 5 years, the 10-year vehicles, that makes sense to me. But it also is still a fundamental, philosophical question. Do we keep $800,000 sitting over here, not doing a whole lot? And that's a philosophical question. How do you handle that so that the cash is ready to spend, or is there other things that we can do with that, or do we need all of that over there?
Well, I would
It could
say,
be- the amount would be arbitrary depending on the department, is that correct? I mean, the IT would have X amount of money in there to do whatever replacement.
they put in the least.
Right, whatever, the wear and tear, the
Yeah.
items that are required, require an immediate fix and not wait until 2 weeks later when the
Yeah.
council meets again to get approval for it, right?
That, yeah.
And so so the amount is arbitrary. I mean, we could say, here's the $5,000, $10,000 for that purpose.
But we have that in available cash right now, and we have.
Yes.
I mean, we do, we have so the question is, so we have in our nice emergency fund that we got set up, right? We're good, 180 days, all that kind of stuff.
That's segregated.
Exactly, that's segregated. We have our available cash, and then we have this other fund over here that's, although not legally restricted, philosophically it's restricted to purchasing things. So, on a personal level, we keep 4 different accounts for things like emergencies, and then there's regular upgrades and things like that. So we needed a new washing machine recently. I went and paid cash for it. They're not that expensive, but we went out of this account that we just put money in regularly. Would it make more sense to think about that in sort of that idea that we're gonna keep X number of dollars over there so that when we need a big piece of equipment, we need a street sweeper, and whatever those things cost now, that account's over there to pay it, and we have a plan to pay it back. You see what I'm saying? Rather than keeping 800,000 encumbered all the time.
Instead of having the 800,000, you would put that back into your available cash, and then
we'd have some amount over there that would be available for equipment replacement, but not necessarily, you have to replace this vehicle. And I know we can change our mind, but you have to replace these vehicles. Does it make sense to tie up that cash? We could be doing other things with it.
So what you're saying, what I'm getting is that you would keep that fund, but you wouldn't contribute every year. It would be more based on a replenishment schedule, ideally, than a preset every year. Out of the operation budget, Public Works puts in, was it 32,000? I think Community Development puts in about 20,000. Yeah, stuff like that.
So there's that. And that's a question. I'm throwing that out there. I really don't have a feeling about that, but that's another way to think about it. I definitely want to go back and have every department, like you've suggested you will, look at what they're contributing and what the real age of the vehicles are, and what we're really getting out of it. It doesn't mean, we got a 3-year-old vehicle that the engine drops out of, we don't go take care of it and buy another one out of equipment replacement, knowing it's not going to pay for the whole thing.
The only thing I could say is, so we're currently right now, how it works is that you take it out of your operation budget, so it goes against your current revenues. So I guess the idea is that, could that money be used for a better cause in that operating budget, regardless other than thrown into this fund? And you would use like available cash to pay for bigger purchases or to replenish that fund as needed. Is that kind of the idea there?
Well, I guess if we went down that road, my thought would be, you'd look at the vehicles and you'd say, well, you'd have a fund that you would almost loan money to yourself from, if that makes sense. So Joseph needs a new vehicle, it's $80,000. We're going to borrow $80,000 from that fund, and for the next several years, we're going to pay that back. So that's another way, and that way we keep the fund at a certain level for these purchases.
So it would be more like a capital project fund or capital purchase fund.
Maybe a capital purchase, I don't know.
Instead of a straight up equipment replacement, it would be.
And that way we don't care how long it lasts. If it lasts 10 years, that's great.
I think the only thing about having the equipment replacement fund is that there's a dedicated, and that department knows that they have that replacement. So it's a little bit more security for them. And it's a definite breakout. I think if we had just a fund that you're just throwing extra money into, and then when we need to go back for these purchases, it can muddy the waters a little bit. I think, you might have to prioritize at that point, something like that, instead of this department knows, hey, I have this in here.
Oh, so I just threw that out there as a.
No, you're fine.
And I just. Think about it. It's just that's what.
I mean, if I can jump in, I like the current process. I'm not as worried about the dollars that are allocated to it. I think that I like the planning aspects that we get out of it, because certainly this year, IT, their plan wasn't complete. Where it's like there were things that he had, but they just weren't committed to paper. And then we still are looking at, like, was it an $80,000 sand that we're going to have to replace as well? But I like the fact that it forces the planning so we don't get surprises. And that's what I like about it, and why they need to be committed to that. As far as, the additional cash that we've got, I think we could commit some larger capital projects to that to burn some of that off next year.
Now TML's coming up. I've already contacted PSD City Base, who's going to be at the convention on, what did they say, asset management solution and advisory. Okay. So I got a 15-minute meeting already set up with them. I'd like to talk with them, see what they got to say, and bring it back to you or Kathy or whatever, that information. I also think possibly the department heads and Kathy and you all get together and kick this around and come back. Not with a solution, but with your ideas.
Yeah. I mean, philosophically, it's like self-insuring the city based on assets. So once we get to that asset base, as soon as we pull money out, there has to be a way to replenish it. So I mean, that's ultimately what that account is. So you almost have to figure, like Ron says, right now we're already planning for that, dollars in, dollars out over a period of time. I don't know how we would change that from a self-insurance standpoint, because that's ultimately what we're doing.
Yeah.
Is we're just saying we'll always have these assets in the city, irregardless what happens to them as far as wear and tear, or if they last longer or less or whatever, it's still there for that purpose in specific. I like that planning point. I don't know how to change that planning point. Is there a specific dollar amount? I think if we choose a specific dollar amount in years like COVID, we're in trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing I would suggest is that maybe not, for the contributions each year, maybe not tie it to your operational budget, maybe do it out of your budget surplus from the year prior. Available cash can fund the equipment replacement for that year, so you're not tying up your operation budget, because those are they're technically considered capital assets, so they're not an operational cost, if that makes sense.
That's an excellent point.
So what you could do,
Mr. Breedlove says.
yes, so what you could do is, so that you're not tying up, I believe the contribution each year, don't hold me to it, it's probably about $100,000.
Seems about right.
So you don't tie that to your operational revenues, so you can do other things with that money. That's highly allowed, because it's not an operational cost. It's a
If what we were
capital
doing was a
expense.
bad practice, Lewis would have banged us for it a long time ago.
Yeah, so, and we talked about this when I took over. I said, hey, what can we do? And me and Lewis looked at some stuff, and he said capital improvement funds, capital asset funds, which is basically a equipment replacement fund. He said, those are a lot easier and more flexible to fund because they're not operational year-over-year costs, if that makes sense. It's going to be a one-time purchase.
Okay.
So we could always explore that next budget year, so that,
Well, if we can start making some, I think this is
yes,
great.
I will
think
meet with the
you
department,
guys meet with
the
department heads,
directors, and
figure out what works, and I do like this idea perhaps of explored a little bit as you move through the audit and stuff, about perhaps using, much like we fund our reserve through excess, look at funding the capital replacement through that.
it makes your money work, it's, and it's will accrue interest and everything like that as well. Okay, so any other questions about equipment replacement? I know this is a really fun agenda item, I know.
No, but it's needed.
Yes.
Do you need a break, Lisa?
No, I'm good. So, moving on to the next item is the budget amendments. So, just a little just a little informational. So basically a budget's an estimate of your projected revenues and expenditures. Currently, the policy that we kind of follow is that we don't budget for every contingency, because then your budget would be astronomically high. So we budget for what we know is going to come, and unfortunately things do come up that we can't plan for, or, and we also make these budgets 6 months in advance. So things change, especially with COVID and inflation and just everything going on. Things have changed with pricing, even availability of things. We've had to readjust sometimes what we can get, stuff like that. So not everything is going to, in a perfect world, everything would come in exact. We don't live in that perfect world. So a budget amendment is typically just a tool to help with budget control and also help with transparency.
Absolutely.
So with a true budget amendment is, so say if, a perfect example was Chris's AC replacement. We budgeted, I believe, 12, it came in at 15. So that line item, because he does have to expense it, doesn't show that he's 3,000 in the deficit, and then, and then whatever else he had budgeted in there, this budget amendment adds that money into there, so then it keeps his bottom dollar true, so that he knows that he's not going over his budget. It's really a budget control item, and it's a transparency item. So, but with a budget amendment, typically when you increase a line item, it's going to decrease your anticipated surplus for that budget year down. It's going to decrease it. If you decrease a line item in the expenditure, it's going to increase your surplus. And you can
expense control too. So,
yes,
I don't figure.
because typically in accounting and with our budget, some line items might come way under, some might come a little bit over. But as long as that the bottom number, the department budget number is within limit, or at limit or below, trust me, I'm looking at them every day. It's it's reality. So really what we do a budget amendments for is for transparency and budget control. So we know exactly what's going on, and then also the public knows. Are there some things that we probably don't really need a budget amendment for? Yes, and I'm going to review that. Typically, if we're moving money from one line item to another line item, not really need it. But if we are, if something explicitly comes in over budget, we will do a budget amendment for that. Or if there's an emergent repair, something like that.
Yeah, so that was what I was going to talk about. I think some of this is, again, a philosophy of what do we do with budget amendments. And again, we spoke a little earlier, and I verified. One of my concerns with this is that when we get to the end of the year, when I start looking at my budget, so we get to next August and we've made some amendments, it looks like everything played out perfectly. Well, if everything played out perfectly, and the year before everything played out perfectly, but in reality we did 2 budget amendments here, well, this thing that Chris has been in, and I'm going to throw Chris on the bus because he's not here, but whatever. He's, he budgeted 12 and we spent 15, and the next year we budgeted 12 again and we spent 15. Okay, that looks like everything's perfect, and it doesn't look like we need to make any changes. That's a concern. Instead of having that little flag there that says, hey, we spent a little more in this area than we thought we should have, why don't we bump that up? So that's one. The other thing is there's a lot of times where budget amendments are these small one-time purchases. We have available cash for small one-time purchases. So for those kind of things, is there a reason not to use available cash? We decided, this canine thing, we decided to go down, right? We're going to have to spend a few dollars, and we wanted to spend it now. We didn't want to wait till budget. So it was going to cost some money, and we wanted to spend it today. Well, we could do a budget amendment, or we could say, why don't we just write a check out of available cash? I mean, at the end of the day, once we get all finished, it ends up sort of being a wash, but I guess I wanted a discussion on the expense. This is the expense portion. I've got another issue or another concern about income, but how do we determine? Now, there's things that I totally agree with. The citywide raise we gave. We got to do a budget amendment. It's going to change the half year because it's got to roll into the next year. So are there some things that really must be budget amendments? Are there some things, these one-time, one-off purchases, that really could be better served simply writing the check out of available cash, so to speak?
Well, at the end of the day, when you expense it, it's going to hit the budget anyway. So it's going to drill down on that anticipated revenue. At the end of the day, your anticipated surplus is what's going to roll into your available cash at the end of the year.
I guess I'm just asking, what's the best way to show that? I mean, like you said, it all washes out. It's all coming out of the same account. What's the best way to show that to people that, do we always need to do a budget amendment because we went and bought 3 extra items that happen to cost, $22,000? Is that budget, is that worth changing our whole budgeting process, or is that simply?
I think it's more for internal, so that we know what's going on in the budget, so I can look at it and I'm not like, hey, this department's like 30,000 over their budget. Because at the end of the day, that's what we're looking at. We're looking at budget control.
But I guess that's what I'm saying. So you're looking at that, and Joseph comes along and says, hey, I need a new X. It costs $30,000. We can say, okay, here's $30,000 because obviously you need it. And we'll take care of that. You're gonna look at that and not see a negative because we do a budget amendment. It looks like, well, Joseph planned for this back in August for this machine to fail, and we just happen to have the money and it all rolled out perfectly.
Well, when we do our budgeting, we do modified zero base, so we start out from the bottom up. So those
Yeah,
amendments get taken out when they're factoring their budgets. But, it's really just a preference of what council wants to do. At the end of the day, it's all
Well,
hitting the
that's
same
not-
cash flow.
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to ask you, what's the best way to
I-
represent this back to, you know, we didn't do budget amendments for years, and we all,
Yeah.
that was a mess because we couldn't keep track.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but now it seems like we're doing them for a lot of more
So I think-
minor items, I guess.
I think there's certain items, like if Joseph comes with a project, obviously that's not going to be treated as a budget amendment.
Right.
You know, we're going to just do it so that it shows up in the capital fund, but it's really not drilling against his surplus because it's a totally different item. But like, as I said, there's been some overkill. I agree with you. You know, one line item moving $50 from here to here, it's overkill. We're not going to do that anymore.
Okay.
It's really going to be for more of like, prices have gone up on contracts, prices have gone up on this. You know, I know sometimes I have
And that's
departments.
fair because it's a pre-existing approval that we now have to modify.
Yeah.
Uh,
I have departments that come to me, and, you know, they say, hey, I need to buy this desk, I only have $1,000, I need $1,200. I'm not going to sweat about the $200, you know, it's not going to be, so, because they're going to save $200 somewhere else. It happens, I watch the budget every day. I guess really it's going to be more about price increases. I think that's what I'm personally leaning more going forward. Price increases, anything like the salary survey, which that's not going to happen every year. The salary increases, it's just stuff like that. And that it just helps me out when I'm doing my budget review because I know, hey, we're not blowing the budget. This was approved. This was amended. And yeah, because typically anything that falls in capital asset, capital project territory probably won't make it to that because it'll be something that's separate from your operating. Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
that sounds
So,
good.
Any other questions or comments or, no?
No, I like it because of the transparency that it does provide.
That's
So that,
the main goal.
everybody can see that, yeah, okay, yeah, this went up in price, okay. We've approved it already, but, okay, great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was more addressing the things that you've already said you're gonna take care of, these one-off purchases.
Yeah,
things.
and staff does a great job. Department heads do a great job at trying to find solutions before we even get to that point. Trust me, it's been.
When I think about the number of them that come through, it's not that many.
Yeah, we don't
That,
do many.
you know, maybe the fact that we do them on a quarter or something, it seems like there's more, but there are always those little piddly ones that are in there too. It's not a big deal.
Yeah. And also, there's not a direct best practice on budget amendments. It's all
Yes,
budget
I-
control. So I was trying to find a best practice, and I consulted with some other cities, and they kind of have different. Everyone's kind of all over the place on that one. So just whatever works best for your city, as long as you're controlling your budget. So, all right. Sorry for all the echoing.
You did great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Lisa.
Lisa.
All right, moving on, item number 13. Discussion and possible action to adopt the following resolution. Resolution submitting nominees for the election of the Montgomery County Appraisal District Board of Directors for 2022 through 2023 term.
I would like to nominate Mr. Ron Raymaker.
Second.
Thank you. One day it'll happen.
All right, we have a motion to nominate Ron Raymaker to the MCAT for the 2022-2023 term. The motion was made by Councilman
Rob,
Brott,
second by
second,
McLeod.
McLeod. Any discussion?
No,
All in favor?
Aye.
I was just gonna add that I just would like to see that one day that maybe we could get to a place where the board is not elected by the school board. That they have so many, they have like 900 out of the 1,400 votes or so, don't quote me on the exact number, but, MCAT is elected by the school board.
Yeah, I'd love for us to get some representative government on there.
Yeah, I think that the municipality should have more say in the school district laws.
No.
I would hope one day we can abolish NCAD and move on to property tax reformation.
Yeah.
Having taken the vote, motion carries.
Thank you.
Better.
Item number 14, discussion and possible action regarding clearing and grubbing for the David Memorial Extension Project.
A little background on this. Bids were received on September 8th for the clearing and grubbing of David Memorial Extension. 3 bids were submitted with proposals ranging from $170,000 up to about $230,000. Petra LLC submitted the lowest base bid, including the cash allowance, for a total of $170,078.02. Staff is recommending awarding that project to Petra. Blyle Engineering checked their references, checked with their bonding company, and recommended awarding the project to them. Just a final note that this project is funded through the 2015 Montgomery County Road Bond.
Motion to award Petra LLC with the David Memorial Clearing and Grubbing Project.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the awarding of contract for the David Memorial Extension to Petra, made by Councilman Raymaker, seconded by Councilman Pollard. Any discussion? Well, it's good to hear that we're moving along on this project. It's good that we're taking the first step on this. I'm happy to hear that.
Absolutely agree. Very excited.
Any additional discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 15, discussion and possible action regarding the investment committee.
Back again, Mayor and Council, so the investment committee is the committee that was created to review the investment policy. Currently, we have a pretty restrictive investment policy. We only allow for 3 investments, one being your main depository bank, 2 being the tax pool or an investment pool, and 3rd being CDs. Currently, the previous committee was comprised of Councilmember Raymaker, former Mayor Rich Wheeler, Kathy, and myself. So this is just to fill Rich's vacancy. And it'll be an appointment or in.
Make a motion to reappoint John Escato.
Second.
Are you willing to serve?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll do it. We have a motion to approve me, the mayor, to the investment committee made by Councilman Brott, seconded by Councilman Raymaker. Should pay more attention. It involves-
You'll get the hang of it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
The motion carries. I'll be happy to serve.
Awesome.
Item number 16, discussion and possible action to ratify the election of the Civic Club Secretary.
Council, this is a ratification of the election of the new secretary for the Civic Club. Per the bylaws, council needs to approve this. As you see in your agenda report, Ms. Wendy Brott has been serving and she's done a great job, but she has decided that to step down. And at the recent meeting, the Civic Club unanimously voted to elect Mr. Ballmer to be the new secretary. I think it's a wonderful choice. And all we need is just your vote of final.
I'll make a motion to approve the unanimous selection of Charlie Ballmer to be the Civic Club Secretary.
Second.
We have a motion to approve Mr. Ballmer to be secretary of the Civic Club by Councilman Raymaker, seconded by Councilman McLeod. Any discussion?
We need more Charlie Bombers in this world.
We do.
I agree with
So
you.
I say anything that he wants, he should get it. He's a volunteer and we need to do it.
Short of a budget amendment.
I think that he's been doing a great job before becoming secretary, and I think he's going to do a great job at that position. Thank you for your services. Thank you for volunteering.
And thanks Wendy for doing it all.
And
those years.
yes,
Yeah.
by all means, thanks Wendy for
Did a great job.
all the great job she has done. Yeah. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you again, Charlie. Item number 17, presentation of Planning and Zoning Commission preliminary report regarding a special use permit for mixed beverage on premises, permit with late hours.
Mayor and council, for your consideration is an application for Gloria's Latin Cuisine located at the intersection of Wellman Road and I-45 for a mixed beverage on-premise permit with late hours consumption. The use permit would authorize Gloria's to sell beverages on-premise between normal operating hours with the late hour subsidy, which would extend the hours from midnight to 2 a.m. Addition to the public comments that was received during the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, staff advised the commission that at that time we had received 15 written notice of objections to the late hours portion of the mixed beverage permit and 4 written statements in support of the application as it was submitted. Additionally, 2 objection notifications were received by the city after the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting in their consideration. The Planning and Zoning Commission did review this item and recommends approval of the mixed beverage on-premise permit without late hours.
All right. Motion to approve a mixed beverage permit for Gloria's without late hours.
We need a public
You
hearing.
gotta have your public hearing.
Oh, sorry about that. It's on a roll.
All right. Public hearing regarding proposed special use permit for mixed beverage on-premise permit with late hours. We're opening the public hearing at 8:01. Does anyone want to speak?
I think the P&Z commissioners made a sound decision. They thoroughly considered it, and I think we ought to go with their suggestion. And also, I did note that Gloria's did not appear at the P&Z to make a request for this. I know that they did not include the request for late hours in their initial application. This is a late thing. And I did note that on some of the ads that they have run on social media for their restaurant, they were promoting a very boisterous party time after closing hours on Friday night. So based on that alone, I can't imagine anybody in our city voting for that. So I commend what the P&Z came up with.
Anyone else want to? All right, we'll close the public hearing at 8:03.
Am I re-queued now?
Yeah.
Okay, discussion and possible action to adopt the following ordinance. An ordinance of the City of Shenandoah amending the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 102, granting a special use permit for a mixed beverage permit with late hours for Gloria's Latin Cuisine located at 18484 Interstate Highway 45, Shenandoah, Texas, providing for a penalty in the amount of $2,000 for violations thereof, providing severability, and providing for an effective date.
Okay, motion to approve the mixed beverage permit for Gloria's without late hours.
Second.
We have a motion to approve the beverage on-premise permit without the late hours. Made by Councilman Raymaker, seconded by Councilman McLeod. Any discussion?
I have a question. Is there a for sale sign on that property where Gloria's is supposed to be? And are they actually planning to do something, and if so, when?
Yes, we finalized the plating process for the land. It's going to now be two commercial reserves. And so we have started the review process for construction. And I did speak with the developer, and he advised it was about a 1 and 4 month process. And as soon as they received the permits from the city, they would start mobilizing. So.
Good. What is that for sale sign up there for?
I believe it's intended for the second reserve that's going to be located between the Gloria's site and the Wellman Manor subdivision.
Okay.
Any additional comment?
They can't build it soon enough.
Yeah, that's true. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Item number 20, presentation of a Planning and Zoning Commission preliminary report regarding a special use permit for a wine and malt beverage retail on-premise permit.
Mayor and Council, for consideration, Black Bear Diner is requesting a special use permit for wine and malt beverage located in the Metro Park development. The wine and malt beverage would authorize the sale for on-premise consumption. This does not include any sort of late hours request. And the council would be a little bit more familiar with the beer and wine. TABC, as I advised the commission, did change their categories on their alcohol permits, and so this is the equivalent to what the commission and council would have considered in the past as a beer and wine permit. They're just now calling it the wine and malt beverage. The Planning and Zoning Commission has reviewed this item and recommends approval of the wine and malt beverage on-premise permit.
Thank you, Jackie. We're going to hold a public hearing regarding the proposed special use permit for wine and malt beverage retail for this permit. The public hearing is hereby open at 8:06. Does anyone want to speak to this item? No one? Public hearing closes at 8:07. Move on to item 22, discussion and possible action to adopt the following ordinance. An ordinance of the City of Shenandoah, Texas, amending the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 102, granting a special use permit for wine and malt beverage permit for Black Bear Diner located at 8821 Metro Park Drive, Suite 100, Shenandoah, Texas.
Make a motion we adopt the ordinance. Second.
We have a motion to adopt the ordinance by Councilman Brott, seconded by Councilman Fletcher. Any discussion?
Were there anybody that objected to the?
No, sir.
Anyone else? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 24. Discussion and possible action to adopt the minutes of August 10th special meeting and the August 10th regular meeting.
Motion they be approved as read. Second.
We have a motion to approve by Councilman Brott, seconded by Councilman Fletcher. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 25, discussion and possible action to ratify the accounts payable for August 2022.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion to approve by Councilman Raymaker, seconded by Councilman Fletcher. Any discussion?
I have a question, not to nitpick, but the Houston Chronicle charges $845.90 for a legal posting. Are they the only publication that is allowed to be considered for posting and buying ads?
It has to be
A daily.
a daily newspaper within the county.
Yeah, the nearest.
Can it, Has anyone challenged that to see if perhaps we could, if there is another publication like The Villager, that is a weekly publication, it has a lower price?
Law,
By statute.
State law.
It's state law.
I think the comptroller is working on having a centralized posting place, and that will take care of all that in the future.
Yeah. It's antiquated, but it's still the law.
I know that from my background, I used to challenge that all the time in different markets, and I got it okay in some markets for weekly publications. So I'd like to investigate a little more to see.
I mean, first of all, it is state law. It has to be daily. But even if it was weekly, if we could, it creates some problems for us on timing, especially on certain approvals now the legislature requires us to do in 30 days. And when you take the posting, 15-day notice, and then it's a daily, if you miss that day, you're at 21 days already. So you have a tiny window of 9 days to act. I agree with Councilman Raymaker. I think that's going to be solved in the current legislative session, and we're going to be done with that.
Councilmember Pollard, if I can echo on that legal posted notice was a one-time for the tax rate notice. So it's a half page, I believe, or it might even be, I can't remember the actual size. So typically our postings are not that much. I just want to let you know it's a weird one that has to be posted with certain lines, and the tax office does that for us.
Second question in that, if it has to be a daily, have we considered the Conroe Courier that's in Montgomery County?
This is the Courier.
That's who we use.
Oh.
Yeah, it's the DBA, it's a DBA taxpayer name thing.
Another question. On Bob Lilly's professional marketing, there's a tennis ball thrower and a tennis ball thrower setup fee. What is that for?
Sorry, I muted myself again. So those are promotional items. I believe that the police department bought this year. So the setup fee typically when you buy promotional items is the typesetting. I'm sorry, it's echoing. So I think these are items for National Night Out and for possibly Halloween as well. So the setup fee is basically getting our logo size in it. It's the professional work that goes behind it.
National Night Out. What is a water cannon with 50-inch cord, $4,020?
So that's the cooling system over at the pool. Helps keep the temperatures down.
Okay, I thought that was National Night Out too, and I thought, man, if we're going to shoot
That's
these
gonna be a fun
cannons
National
over
Night
there.
We're upgrading the dunk tank.
What, I should know this, but there's a $20,000 advertising fee for CISD, 5 annual payments. What is that?
Yes, sir, that is an advertising contract that we have with the school district. I believe, John, correct me if I'm wrong, are we in our last year of that?
This is the last payment
Okay.
of a
Okay.
5-year contract.
Yeah, so let's see, MDD does the scoreboard, so this is at the nadatorium.
Okay, so we're advertising in an auditorium,
Yes, sir.
$20,000 a year?
It's
On the
no,
scoreboard.
it's a
Scoreboard.
Yeah.
So this one's a NAT, right?
Correct.
Yeah, there's TV cameras that play various ads inside the NAT, and then there's a little static ad in the lobby area.
Unfortunately, we were able to get this moved out of our general budget over to
Yes,
CVB.
it was
this is in the-
MDD had a contract and CVB had a contract, and we combined both into CVB.
Yes.
Great, good work.
I was hoping maybe next time we'd get a bigger footprint on the wood forest side.
Well, we will be renegotiating these agreements more so in the city's favor this time.
Another question. On the open records, I see that we have Teague/Sentinel Reporter for August 1st, accounts payable and budget records. And I also see another one, a Teague Sentinel reporter on August the 25th for staff conflict of interest. And another one from August 25th from Gene Teague, Sentinel reporter for status change forms. Are we allowed to find out what those are?
No,
Oh, we can't?
we're not allowed by law to ask why you want something.
Can I, as a citizen, request open records on those same things?
Sure.
Okay. I will. Thank you.
Any further discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion to ratify the accounts payable for August 2022 passes. City attorney updates.
None tonight.
City administrator updates.
Council, I have just a few quick ones for you. First of all, we had some damaged pavers at David Memorial and Tamina, and those have been repaired. Second one, we had an SJRA water line leak on Grogan's Mill near the roundabout, and those repairs are almost done. So that's good news. And then finally, reminder again that next Monday night is National Night Out. That's Monday the 3rd at 6 to 8 p.m. at the park. That's always a great event. That's all I have.
All right. Council inquiry.
Well, Kathy already stole my thunder on the National Night Out, but this year there was no conflicting Packer game, so I'll be there this year. And then I wanted to give a little love to John Maynard. You know, I've noticed a couple things in there. Our hotel occupancy is way up, so, you know, all the advertising and stuff is paying off. Also, Metro Park seems to be finally making some progress now and getting tenants, so excellent. That's it.
I'm good.
I had a question, I guess from P&Z. What is the status of CATS, the new building of CATS?
We've seen some rough plating for that property, but at this time, there's been no other permits submitted for that property or the Woodloft property located behind there.
There's not a timetable, you have no idea?
No, sir.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah, so I just wanted to, I think it's probably about time that we've had some issues recently. We had several issues in July, we had some in August. Just recently we had some more issues, and this is all with energy. We're continuing to have problems with energy. I understand we've got construction people that manage to somehow slam into power lines. And so the problem is not necessarily things that are outside of their control, but there are things that are inside their control. And that is how quickly the power comes down and whether it bounces on the way down, whether it comes back and up and down. This is the kind of stuff that's really harmful to electrical appliances. And so I think it's about time we contact Energy and have another discussion with them. Several years ago, maybe 6 years or so ago, we went through this process again. And so I want to see what's going on here. Because we've had numerous outages of multiple hours over the past 4 months or so. So we could get in touch with them and start working on that.
Will do.
I have a question. I was attending a concert over at the Cynthia Woods Pavilion, and I saw that the Woodlands has a lot of advertisement for hotels, things of that nature, promoting the Woodlands. Is there any way that we can get involved with that? We have a lot of people that come in from out of town for these concerts and stay at these hotels, not only in the Woodlands, but I'm sure that they stay in Shenandoah as well.
John may be able to speak to that. I don't know if they have a special arrangement, but we used to have an agreement with the pavilion, and we had some ads on location, and that's not the case anymore. I don't know if they would be, we can certainly talk to them, you know, nothing's stopping us from talking to them to see if we could work out a way to have our hotels advertised.
I believe the original contract was with Live Nation for the advertising.
Yeah.
Say that again.
There's an issue, what it really comes down to is where do you want to put your $1 million? If people are showing up at a concert there and you're in the facility, you're too late to get them from the hotel. So the question becomes, do you advertise in advance as it's being promoted or different channels? And we have been doing it with Live Nation. And then when the pandemic hit and the hiatus was on, this is their year back. And
I'm talking specifically that I'm on the mailing list, so when I get that email promoting concerts, that's when the attachment of those hotels and all of that comes through.
right.
So that's
And
prior
when I
to
say
the-
Live Nation is where we have been putting
Yeah.
it in advance when people were going to buy tickets and do it that way.
Right.
So it's two different things going after the similar audience.
Yeah,
I mean, that way it's people going, looking to purchase their tickets,
right.
or it is their, and I'm reaching that.
I just want to make sure that we're getting our fair share of publicity as well, to favor our hotels and restaurants.
We are, and we certainly promote them in all of our advertorials and all of our advertising materials.
Great, good to hear. Thank you, John.
Sure.
All right. Having said all that, this session of the city council meeting is adjourned at 8:21.